Think for a moment about the agricultural revolution from the viewpoint of wheat. 10,000 years ago, wheat was just a wild grass, one of many, confined to a small range in the Middle East. Suddenly, within just a few short millennia, it was growing all over the world. According to the basic evolutionary criteria, wheat has become one of the most successful plants in the history of Earth. In areas such as Great Plains of North America, where not a single wheat stalk grew 10,000 years ago, you can today walk for hundreds upon hundreds of miles without encountering any other plant. Worldwide, wheat covers about 870,000 square miles of globe surface, almost 10 times the size of Britain. How did this grass turn from insignificant to ubiquitous? Wheat did it by manipulating Homo sapiens to its advantage. This ape had been living a fairly comfortable life, hunting and gathering until about 10,000 years ago, but then began to invest more and more in cultivating wheat. Within a couple of millennia, humans in many parts of the world were doing little from dawn to dusk other than taking care of their wheat plants. Wheat didn't like rocks and pebbles, so sapiens broke their backs clearing fields. Wheat didn't like sharing its space, water and nutrients with other plants, so men and women labored long days, weeding under the scorching sun. Wheat got sick, so sapiens had to keep a watch out for worms and blight. Wheat was attacked by rabbits and locust swarms, so the farmers built fences and stood guard over the fields. Wheat was thirsty, so humans dug irrigation canals or lugged heavy buckets from the well to water it. Sapiens even collected animal feces to nourish the ground in which wheat grew. The body of Homo sapiens had not evolved for such tasks. It was adapted to climbing apple trees and running after gazelles, not to clearing rocks and carrying water buckets. Human spines, knees, necks, and arcs paid the price. Studies of ancient skeletons indicate that the transition to agriculture brought about a plethora of ailments, such as slip discs, arthritis, hernias. Moreover, the new agriculture demanded so much time that people were forced to settle permanently next to their wheat fields. This completely changed their way of life. We did not domesticate wheat, it domesticated us. The word domesticate comes from the Latin domus, which means house. Who's the one living in a house? Not the wheat, it's the sapiens. How did wheat convince Homo sapiens to exchange a rather good life for a more miserable existence? What did it offer in return? It did not offer a better diet. Remember, humans are omnivorous apes who thrive on a wide variety of foods. Grains made up only a small fraction of the human diet before the agricultural revolution. A diet based on cereals is poor in minerals and vitamins, hard to digest and really bad for your teeth and gums. We did not give people economic security. The life of a peasant is less secure than that of a hunter-gatherer. Foragers relied on dozens of species to survive and could therefore weather difficult years even without stocks of preserved food. If the availability of one species was reduced, they could gather and hunt more of the other species. Farming societies have until very recently relied for the great bulk of their calorie intake on a small variety of domesticated plants. In many areas, they relied on just a single staple such as wheat, potatoes, or rice. If the rains failed, or clouds of the locust arrived, or if a fungus infected the staple species, peasants died by the thousands and millions. Nor could wheat offer security against human violence. The early farmers were at least as violent as the forager ancestors, if not more so. Farmers had more possessions and needed land for planting. The loss of pasture land to raiding neighbors could mean the difference between subsistence and starvation, so there was much less room for compromise. When a foraging band was hard pressed by a stronger rival, it could usually move on. It was difficult and dangerous, but it was feasible. When a strong enemy threatened an agricultural village, retreat meant giving up fields, houses, and granaries. In many cases, this doomed the refugees to starvation. Farmers therefore tended to stay put and fight to the bitter end. Village life certainly brought the first farmers some immediate benefits, such as better protection against wild animals, rain, and cold. Yet for average person, the disadvantages probably outweighed the advantages. This is hard for the people in today's prosperous societies to appreciate. Since we enjoy affluence and security, and since our affluence and security are built on foundations laid by agriculture revolution, we assume that the agriculture revolution was a wonderful improvement. Yet it is wrong to judge thousands of years of history from the perspective of today. It offered nothing for people as individuals. Yet it did bestow something on Homo sapiens as species. Cultivating wheat provided much more food per unit of territory and thereby enabled Homo sapiens to multiply exponentially. Around 13,000 BC, when people fed themselves by gathering wild plants and hunting wild animals, the area around the oasis of Jericho in Palestine could support at most one roaming band of about 100 relatively healthy and well-nourished people. Around 8500 BC, when wild plants gave way to wheat fields, the oasis supported a large but cramped village of 1000 people who suffered far more from disease and malnourishment. Currency of evolution is neither hunger nor pain, but rather copies of DNA helices. Just as the economic success of companies measured only by the number of dollars in its bank account, not by the happiness of its employees, so the evolutionary success of a species is measured by the number of copies of its DNA. If no more DNA copies remains, the species is extinct, just as company without money is bankrupt. If a species boasts many DNA copies, it is a success, and the species flourishes. From such a perspective, 1000 copies are always better than 100 copies. This is the essence of agriculture revolution, the ability to keep more people alive under worse conditions. Nobody agreed to this deal. The agriculture revolution was a trap.